In today's show, we are going to discuss a better strategy to learning. Welcome to the Time Dominate Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Boardman, and my camelback has just leaked all over the place. Oh my God. So listen, if you're coming through, please do let me know. Hope you've had a great week. Sorry about the distraction. Just as I was talking, literally my camelback has just leaked all underneath my coat, and I was wondering what was happening. So listen, we're going to talk about a strategy that I think is going to help in terms of you starting to learn better. Now, I want to put some context on that. So what I mean by that is that when I look at the 4 pillars of how we base our lives, and we look at our lives, I look at personal development as one of the major pillars. So we have personal development, health, relationship, and career and business. And when it comes down to personal development, I often talk about self-learning. I'm talking about finding time to develop yourself and grow yourself, which I think is one of the last things that so many people do. And whenever I talk about consuming content, I'm always talking about listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks, listening to presentations, interviews, live videos and shows like this. But the thing is, are we actually learning, or are we just consuming the content? Now, if you think about when you were back at school, if you imagined never writing any notes down, if you just imagine going into a lesson, sitting there, listening to a teacher for 40, 50 minutes, and for 5 years through secondary school, you never got to write anything down. I wonder how far we would get when it comes to our exams at the end. Because we can't remember everything. We can't retain every golden nugget, every vital learning point that we are going to come across. Because we've got so much else going on and there's so much to consume. So we have to be able to find a way, a strategy, that allows us to actually be able to take learning points from the content that we consume. Now, I think that there are 2 paths here. The first path is that consuming content really helps us, if you like, parallel with our journey of doing something. So if you did my 28-day program, listening to content in the background just consistently embeds, plants the seeds of inspiration, motivation, drive and fire and passion, because you constantly have in your ear a positive voice, positive interviews, positive content, realities, truth bombs. All of these things, they go hand in hand, and they're good to have, right? It's having a positive effect on your mind. But then the other path is that how can we use some of that as a learning to be able to progress permanently and actually implement some of the things that we're consuming. And this is where I had a bit of a paradigm shift, okay? And what I mean by that is that I was doing something one way and then kind of had an aha moment and changed the way that I did it. So instead of just sitting, like being whilst running or driving or walking and listening and consuming, what I did was went back to a classroom scenario, and I had this strategy in terms of, well, instead of quantity of books that I want to listen to, I'm going to take the time to have quality of books that I listen to. So at the very start of the year, I was like, I want to read like 20, 30 books this year, which is crazy, because actually I would only consume so much information. So I decided just to go, this quarter, I'm just going to choose one book, and this is the strategy that I'm going to use to get the most out of that book, to extract as much information as I possibly can out of that book, so that I have some real great teachings, learning points, gold nuggets that I can actually implement within my life, my business, my career, and improve the way I'm moving forwards. So the way that I've done that is that the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, in fact it was 2.5 weeks, I just listened to the audiobook, just like the first part that I talked about. Just listened to that audiobook, just consumed it, took in what I could. And then what I did was set a period of time between Monday and Friday of 45 minutes of personal development, self-learning time. Now, whether that was at lunchtime, whether that was at my morning routine, whether that was in my personal space, I found 45 minutes straight through where I could sit down and go through that book again. But this time, I'd have an exercise book, okay, that would allow me to write down key points, key strategies, key thought processes, gold nuggets that I felt that could really influence, the way that I live my life, my mindset, my paradigm shift, my vision, my implementations. And I ended up writing almost half an exercise book, half a notepad on this book. And then to finish again, what I ended up doing is listening to the book again, just like while I was walking or running. And the difference between consuming that book the first time and then the second time, with all of the learning points and the school scenario in between, was completely different. Because everything I was listening to, I dissected in my own thoughts, in my own way, in my own process, and I was able to really make sense of that book. I was really able to give it a lot of my time, a lot of my energy, and then started rushing that process. And instead of trying to, if I can just feel like I am listening to something and I'm not actually doing it, it's non-constructive learning, I actually manifested some time to be able to develop and learn. Now, the biggest barrier and biggest constraint to this is people go, I don't have fucking time to be able to do that. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. There are 168 hours in a week, 24 hours in a day. And all we're looking for is something between, maybe it's 20 minutes to start with, maybe half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. However much time that you're willing to commit to you developing it as an individual. And I'd probably say, if you're saying this time isn't enough, choose a time management fucking book, for fuck's sake. You know, you've got to be proactive in terms of your self-development. You can't be reactive and say, I didn't have time, work was too much, my fucking missus was moaning at me. Stop moaning like a fucking moaner, like a victim mentality. You've got to start being more proactive about your learning, about your own development. Otherwise, you're never going to fucking grow. You're just going to end up staying the same, listening to idiots like me, turning around and going, oh yeah, he's fucking right, I really resonate with that, doing fuck all about it, and then wondering why you're still the same guy 2-3 years down the line. How you do anything is how you do everything. So when you start proactively listening and learning and constructively growing, you're going to do that in other areas. It's like when you get fit and healthy, you naturally have more energy to be able to cope with family life, work life. When you spend more time learning and writing stuff down, you then start being more proactive in your work and being more methodical, having a higher level of discipline, higher levels of performance that people start noticing. So it's not just like an isolated incident. This is not just an isolated strategy. This goes into the whole of your life. The way you do anything is how you do everything. You not suddenly become more efficient in your self-learning and growth and not fucking do anything else. You're naturally going to want to improve other areas of your life. If you're just listening, consuming, and not really taking anything in or action in anything, it really is. You're just having a quick hit of motivation to say, oh, you're absolutely fucking right. Yeah, I've got you there. And then you fuck off back to the same way that you're living your life. It's completely conflicting to the reason that you're even listening or consuming. I know that one of the guys in the mastermind makes fucking notes of everything I say and the other people that he follows, and has just notebook of notes and notes. And when you need to go back and refer to it, you can refer to that learning point. That's the whole point of journaling as well. Guys, I hope that helps. If you haven't already, get yourself on the 28 days. We are starting Monday. We're starting to put people in the app. Don't fucking fall behind. Have an incredible weekend. And I'll catch you soon.